Welcome to the Division. You can win a fucking shoe.
I'm rolling in a
Well, the Division 2 is barely 10 months old, and it's already practically run its course. As the Chinese Taoist philosopher Lao Tzu so eloquently put it in his book, the Tao Te Ching, the dumpster fire that burns twice as bright, burns half as long. The full extent of this utter and complete fuck bye is now so apparent that there is no hiding it. But respect to Ubisoft Massive for continuing to try regardless. The players have grown weary of hearing the same old recycled lies. The Year 1 content was either shit or entirely failed to show up. Gamers now understand that games as a service means pay now, get dicked later. The community managers are trying to come up with excuses for cancelling state of the game. Ubisoft's share price is floundering. Twitch has largely forgotten that the Division 2 even exists. The player count has evaporated. The Division 2 is now performing so crushingly badly on Twitch that last time I checked, it was 235th in the charts, being outperformed by such heavyweight video game titans as Tabletop Simulator, Roblox, Farming Simulator 19, and PUBG Mobile. I hear it just squeaks into the top 200 when the last two mid-sized streamers are actually fucking playing it. But similarly, last week someone started streaming the Division 1 and that outperformed the Division fucking 2. Credit where credit is due, however, the PR operation is still leveraging enough of the gaming media with its advertising spend that nobody in the mainstream gaming news is bothering to even mention that the Division franchise has collapsed so hard it makes buying 3 copies of Anthem seem like a relatively sane investment. But let's not dwell on the negative. If we did that, we would be here for 10 sodding hours. Let's try and turn that frown upside fucking down. Let's keep a chipper attitude whilst we discuss the Division news. So how is the Year 1 content developing? Many of you may have in fact completely failed to notice that there apparently was some Year 1 content. Beyond the relentless dumping of cosmetic outfit loot box events that are being cranked out by Ubisoft every week or two. So let's take a look at how the game is evolving and what exciting shit we are getting, besides pedo caches. Players will be able to get the new weapon, the Slayer, during the Christmas period. Many players, myself included, reminisce about the beautiful winter atmosphere of the Division 1. Well, this is a good news, bad news scenario. Whilst they won't be taking us back to the beautiful and snowy New York City, they will be bringing the snow to us. In case you haven't heard, we're getting a stupid, childish, law-breaking, shitty machine gun that fires snowballs. I guess that any pretense that this game isn't a reskinned World of Warcraft is finally fucking over. As far as Christmas gifts go, I reckon this ranks just below a pair of socks and just above a lump of coal. I'm just fucking around. I would infinitely prefer a lump of coal. At least I can burn that. Or throw it at someone. Well, I said we were going to look at the shit we were getting, and this definitely qualifies as shit. At least I'm good for my word. Unlike the community management team, sadly. The Slayer, see what they did there? It's a pun. An incredibly shit sub-comedy pun. The Slayer is available from December the 10th in the holiday event situation shitball. Obviously, we're getting even more time-limited cosmetic outfit apparel events. The only content being reliably and consistently delivered since launch. I guess, technically, this isn't really the content the players want. This is a way for Ubisoft Massive to give us our fucking shoe in the hope that we get our credit cards out to buy the entire rest of the outfit. But, you know, free shoes are fucking free shoes, right? On an optimistic note, lots of video game franchises have been saved from player collapse by adding more microtransactions. Said nobody ever. Ubisoft Massive have also finally caved into demands and let players transfer loot boxes, apparel cache keys, to each other. So now if your buddy is having bad luck finding that one last item to complete the set, because the heuristic algorithm knows it can string him out for at least 20 to 30 spins more of the wheel, his friends can help him out and save him from spending money. Well, technically they can't. When they said transfer, they meant you can now buy shit for them and give it to them in-game. I guess that at least it saves you the hassle of sending your mate money via PayPal, so they can buy another 20 to 30 keys and still have bad luck finding that one last item to complete the set. I'm sorry, but this is some of the most cynical shit I've ever witnessed. Not satisfied with peddling pedo caches, now they are encouraging people to buy them for other players too. Whoever came up with this idea, well, fuck that guy. On the plus side, I've received some positive news about the Dark Zone. It would appear that Redstorm are hard at work developing some significant improvements to PvP, which will be implemented in the coming months. Redstorm have been chilling out, drawing pictures of ladies because, I don't know what the fuck they're doing there. Some form of corporate, institutional, fucking psychotic break from what I can see. The company has issued a profit warning. The Division 2 is fucked. Players and developers are leaving in droves. I know, let's all make some doodles of ladies on a couch. Because that shit right there will make the Division 2 better. I guess maybe there might be creative benefits here that I didn't appreciate. So I tested this theory out scientifically to see if it would help me make a video game. So far, I've managed to make precisely 0% of a video game. Then I drew a picture of a nice lady. And lo and fucking behold, I have still made precisely fuck all of a video game. Go figure. And I wasted 3.5 hours doing that poxy drawing. Can someone please stop the world so I can get off? Because as every day goes by, this industry gets more and more fucking incomprehensible. I was surprised, however, to discover that Ubisoft Massive has, at least in its own small way, been helping to reduce the amount of loot box addiction in this franchise. I recently found out that you can buy the game on disc for Xbox, but not install it. I'm not even sure if this problem is fixed after a month. I mean, what the actual fuck? If you buy this game on disc for Xbone, it might not install at all. Ever. Selling a broken, unfinished game was a bold enough move, but are they really now selling people games that don't even install? Soon, Ubisoft will be selling you games where you just get to sign the terms and conditions, giving up your right to a refund, and then you get nothing. Correction. That's exactly what they are doing. These poor fucks on Xbox are actually accepting the terms and conditions and then not being able to install from the disc. The least they could do is add some kind of pop-up box saying something like, "You've been mugged off, mate." Surely if the game then doesn't install, that invalidates the end-user license agreement the customer has signed, right? No, it doesn't. Welcome to AAA publishers in 2019, a world where a giant multinational can sell you a glorified drinks coaster for 50 quid and have no obligation to refund you. The hottest topic with the content, however, is the new game mode being introduced shortly. It's no secret that players have been screaming out for modes like Survival and Underground, and finally Ubisoft Massive caved in, admitted that this ain't never gonna happen, and instead gave the loyal players something entirely different that they didn't want, because it's cheap. In fact, it's so cheap to do, it might actually be fucking free. Yes, hardcore mode is being rolled out, the absolute cheapest possible way to add content without spending money. Chop off the revive mechanics and add a script, resetting your character level to 0 and deleting your stuff. Genius! A brilliant insight. What do you do if you don't have a budget for the Year 1 DLC, but you want to add something for the players in an online game notorious for server instability, delta errors and disconnects? You've got it. Ironman Mode. Spectacular. This makes about as much sense as playing Russian roulette with a minigun. Perhaps the bullet is in the first barrel, perhaps the fifth. Who cares? Because if you pull that trigger, it's just a matter of time before it gets you. I suppose hardcore mode serves as evidence that there is at least one developer still working on this game, and I mean literally one developer. Not even kidding. There he is.
You're like, you know, you only play in small spurts, not like a normal gaming environment.
Hardcore mode literally involves removing the script for reviving and adding a character reset script to a default state. I'm sure a few other people from legal and compliance might get involved, but from a development perspective, hardcore mode has literally taken some guy a day or two to do. There are pros and cons with hardcore mode. The pros are, it's a 10 to 20 hour coding job. You get a YOLO hat. It gave them an excuse to do a state of the game and promote more pedo caches. The cons are, it's a bit shit. The big issue here is where the fuck is the proper Year 1 content, because frankly, a few poxy missions and a gonk for my rucksack has not, thus far, matched the price tag I douched on the DLC. Hardcore mode is such joke content it could be bashed off by one fella over the weekend. Well, considering the time span between the survey, the announcement and the implementation, that may indeed be what happened. Fuck, as Sir Grumpsalot pointed out. They were literally testing this shit for the first time during server downtime, during maintenance. That's like trying to take your aviation exam whilst sitting in the cockpit of a jet fighter whilst waiting to take off from an aircraft carrier. It's tragic. No wonder this mode comes with a YOLO hat. It's not a reference to the player, it's a reference to the fucking developer. The overall gear game in the Division 2 is that age-old classic Division development cycle meta. They roll out gear, let you grind for weeks, battling RNG until you finally get lucky and get everything min-maxed. Then they just nerf it on a whim, shitting on your gear, you, and the game in the process. I personally think their decision to stop letting gear talent stack was utter stupidity. Incidentally, it wrecked my fairly middle-of-the-road yet well-optimised PvE set. My only set, literally my only clean set of clothes for the Division, got shit on. Thanks for that, I guess. So what's new on the community management front? Well, State of the Game still haven't fixed their microphones after 3 years of trying.
Hello everyone and welcome to State of the Game number 140. We are what, 4th of December?
Yes. Yes.
We're off to a good start.
The upload is stuttering harder than a teenage virgin, and the tropes are still absolutely identifiable. That's definitely a discussion we would like to have. We're working on it. We're listening to you guys. Fold that up and put it in the 21 kiloton bullshitter meter, and it comes out as, still not going to fix your broken ass game because that might cost us money. So we will sit here faking a care face and bullshit you instead. A big congratulations, however, goes to Yannick Bonchareau. His job title used to be Live Content Manager at Massive Entertainment, which is posh talk for King of the Pedo Vendors. Now, apparently, he has some other title like Associate Creative Director or some such deflecting abstract nonsense. I've been trying to work out if he just got demoted and this is a placeholder job title, whether they changed his job title so it wasn't so obviously telegraphing the fact that he is in charge of the loot boxes, or whether he genuinely has a new job. Frankly, I can't decide which scenario is more depressing, because if he genuinely is now an Associate Creative Director of the Division 2, that sounds about as pointless as being the Entertainment and Morale Officer in a death camp. Still, where are my manners? Congratulations, Yannick. I hope. My overarching impression of Yannick when I look into his eyes is this. I think he knows this franchise is a dishonest long con, and he is looking for his way out. Sometimes the embarrassed, self-conscious glint in his eyes portrays the fact that he is dying a little bit on the inside. And if CD Projekt Red phoned him tomorrow, he would be out of the door faster than if the building was on fire. Taking a look at the community management on the broad scale, however, it's the exact same shit we have been listening to since the Division 1, only this time around the small studios aren't pulling rabbits out of the hat like Survival and Underground. And if they are doing that behind the scenes, someone is fucking up their ideas before they come to fruition. I think a lot of the community has grown wise to this industrial level of bullshit dispersal, but there are still players that need to fully appreciate the unbounded level of deception, doublespeak and misdirection being thrown at them. The community needs to stop in their tracks and really start to analyse the statements being used to placate them, because nearly all of the time the community is being deflected, deceived or encouraged to be patient, and as we found in the Division 1, this usually means waiting forever and getting absolutely nothing. Then there is the obligatory well-prepared microtransaction and loot box presentation with accompanying slideshow graphics. Let's not forget that they are constantly trying to come up with excuses for cancelling State of the Game. They pretty much want to sack it, fuck off to the shisha bar and only come back when they have some more kiddie gambling to promote. They tried to cancel State of the Game until January. Let's not forget that. They even tried to make the case that this was what the players asked for, which is not true. They gave us a Hobson's choice by stating that there is no point having a State of the Game if there's nothing to announce, announcing that there was nothing to announce, and then announcing that since there was nothing to announce, that there was no point having any more State of the Games to not announce it. I'm pretty sure that's not the same as us telling them to stop. That is them telling us that they can't be fucked.
We also know that when we come on State of the Game and we don't have new content or we don't have anything that is like snappy or flashy, we oftentimes feel like we're under-delivering. Maybe that doesn't really reflect in the community, but we oftentimes also think like, hey, we could have done better, or we could have. And then obviously we also read, forums where players are like, oh, if there's something new, I don't really want to talk about things that we're very interested in. But we also know that we need to build that expectation in a correct way. So going forward, like if we want to talk about a topic that is not new, but we think is interesting, I think it's fair if we go the approach that we tell players plan that ahead, because we obviously need to still have a dev here, for example, or a researcher, or whatever we want to do. So we should be able to heads up more to players as well. So that's one of the things. But it's also about the content that we want to show, right? And we want to have an honest look at like with you together in the community to say like, okay, what is in the timeline? How do we do? And we know that that is not new content. That is not free. That is not whatever is coming out. But it also helps us to show off what we're doing, what we're proud of. It's not something that we want to decide. You guys are our audience. You watch us. So it's not an immediate, like we're not going to look at Twitch chat and be like, yes, that's the decision that we're going to make. Yeah. We want to talk to you about that in the next. And also more importantly, like what would you like to see? Is there you ever wondered about the production of State of the Game? The streaming room look, how do we set up? It's also that some players would like, if there's no news, if there's nothing that we can discuss on State of the Game that is new, why do the show, right? Why do State of the Game in general? Maybe that's also something that we have to discuss with you guys. Maybe then we don't do the weekly stream on Wednesday. For that particular week, we don't do a stream on Wednesday, but we still give you as simple as an article that says like maintenance time, bug fixes that we're looking into, and then we have something that we want to show as well. But that's totally also a point where we can say like, okay, if we don't have anything that is what the majority of you guys want to see on State of the Game, we don't have to do the show this week. We don't have to do the show this week. We don't have to do the show this week. We don't have to do the show this week.
But then they had the Winter Pedo Cache collection, so we got a quick State of the Game. A fucky gun, and the hardcore expansion that took this fella a whole weekend to make. On the subject of the community management team winding up any kind of support for the Division 2, there has recently been a general perception amongst a lot of the player base that Ubisoft Massive is putting up the shutters regarding engagement with the community at large. I have been frequently contacted by players complaining about shenanigans going on. Many players are getting a bit pissed off with Ubisoft staff claiming to be listening and then blocking anyone who is bold enough to make even a fucking squeak in response. There has been a spate of people contacting me to say they've been blocked on social media. There appears to be a second wave of mass blockings going on from devs and CMs. Apparently now people like Propaganda Chief Chris Gansler has reclassified online abuse to include things like politely pointing things out. He's been blocking people for, amongst other things, asking very polite questions. And for the record, he is the only member of Ubisoft staff that I've had to actually tactically block. I did this after someone disagreed with him politely on Twitter. He blocked them, and then shortly afterwards, their Twitter account was banned. I'm not convinced that this is listening to the players. Disagree with a community manager, get instantly blocked and lose your Twitter account within the hour. That certainly smells like someone abusing Ubisoft's privileged status with Twitter, if you ask me. I saw the tweets involved and there was nothing abusive going on at all. I certainly can't explain why this guy's Twitter account would suddenly get banned just because he disagreed with the community manager. This kind of thing is a paper-thin attempt to expunge any kind of bad press from social media accounts because, well, if you're a community manager and your community is pissed off and feeling betrayed, and that is writ large on your social media footprint, it's gonna be hard looking for a new job. Obviously, I'm not saying he is looking for a new job, but if hypothetically he was looking for a new job, that would look pretty bad. My only comment on the Chris Gansler complaints is this. He promotes Ubisoft on that account. He promotes The Division on that account. He promotes Google Stadia on that account. He seems to do business on that account. He does all of this shit, but then when it suits him, immediately snaps at members of the community claiming boo-boos because it's apparently now suddenly his personal account. If someone is going to use that kind of defence, they might want to consider not doing lots of Ubisoft work on the account. Because you can't have it both ways, just when it suits you. As the wise man once said, if you want to get up on stage and play Rockstar because you enjoy people cheering, you have to put up with the fact that if you fuck up your performance badly, sometimes the audience might throw empty beer cans at you. I call foul on this personal account defence. This is nothing more complicated than someone pretending they were being attacked and hiding behind that, when people were merely asking why in God's name the state of the game was being shit-canned until 2020. I think that's a fair question, to be honest, and I think he knows it's a fair question too. That's why he played victim and blocked the guy for zero reason. Then there is a situation involving a developer who I will not name. She went on Twitter showboating about listening to the community and all that horseshit. I mean, I'm glad she says she listens, but fuck, she doesn't control the budget, so listening to the screams of the dying isn't really the same as throwing them a rope. Anyway, in response to this, a high-profile member of the Division community responded. No prizes for guessing that her immediate reaction was to block the guy. Well played. Frankly, I think said developer was just being naive. She wanted to showboat on social media about listening to players, and perhaps she thought she would be surrounded with a big love bubble by having a big, fat, virtue signalling session on social media. I don't know, perhaps a pay review is coming up or something. However, when a player actually spoke, she suddenly decided she hadn't signed up for a big dose of reality. Gansler is, well, Gansler. He's in the PR business and everything he says and does has to be filtered through that lens of dishonesty. Same for Seamus Bode and any of the other PR guys. Frankly, I think the developer just thought that listening to the players meant hanging out with brainwashed, pre-vetted acolytes on the heavily censored Discord server. Then shat herself when one of the real players actually spoke to her. The point of all of this is the following. 1. They are trying to shut down complaint and communication on social media. I don't think they're interested in listening anymore. They're interested in people fangirling. And if you start asking hard questions, there's a very good chance that you're going to get blocked. 2. When they showboat, they are not interested in listening. They are virtue signalling and seeking support and validation from their peers and colleagues. 3. All this horseshit about listening is sprinkling glitter on dogshit anyway. 4. It's one thing to say you do something, and another to knuckle down and actually do it. I do, however, humbly ask you think about my points, but remain polite and humorous in all your dealings on social media. It's good for you, it's good for gamers. If Ubisoft staff want to play games, falsely accuse people of griefing them, block them and make false reports to Twitter, that's on them. As a community, we need to keep playing it calm, considered and straight down the line. No discussion of the Division 2 community management train wreck would be complete without at least mentioning Julian Gerrity's dick comment. I think this one speaks for itself, really. I think Julian was just a bit tired and grumpy. I mean, spending all that time on social media trying to convince players that he gives a fuck must be very, very tiring. I mean, Christ, that's a lot of bullshitting. Anyway, Julian lost his shit and started making comments that are juvenile even by my standards. And my standards are very, very low indeed. I don't know, I thought this was hysterical, to be honest. But in the grand scheme of things, he let his guard down for a moment. Everyone seized on it, and most people revelled in the situation. As did I. In Gerrity's defence, at least he's not out there blocking community members. And he didn't delete the tweet, it's still there. And that right there is the perfect metric for how fucked up the franchise is. When it's a compliment to say, at least this guy from Ubisoft lies to us, insults the customers, but doesn't block people on social media and get accounts banned. That's a bit sad, really, isn't it? In fact, there is a real departure here from the first game. At least the crew running the Division 1 took it on the chin. Sure, the game was a mess and plenty of bullshitting was there to be savoured, but at least the likes of Gerrity, Terry Potter and Yannick, king of the pedo vendors, actually followed people in the community. Not like these Division 2 clowns like Gansler and Thailander that say they listen and then block you the second you actually say something other than servile grovelling. Fuck, even Johan has the common courtesy to follow members of the community, and he's a fucking wrong 'un. That was meant to be a compliment, but I think it came out wrong. And before we leave the subject of state of the game, why the fuck are they still uploading them to YouTube with 9 minutes of pre-roll? I mean, why? Surely there must be an 11-year-old YouTuber they can ask for help if they want to appear more professional. The dwindling player numbers are now hard to hide. The subreddit is a ghost town. It's a goddamn Greek tragedy. Speaking of which, I would like to congratulate the head moderator for receiving his 3rd paid holiday from Ubisoft Massive. My guesstimate would be that that's 1 trip abroad as a star player and 2 as an elite task force member. Pretty sure, in fact, that he's one of the only people to ever be invited to the ETF more than once. To put this in perspective, I doubt that there are many developers from Ubisoft who live outside Sweden who have been flown out to Malmo 3 times. Well played, that man. Clearly, whatever it is that he's doing for Ubisoft Massive, they are very, very grateful for it. Seriously though, the subreddit is starting to read like a memorial wall to lost friends and broken dreams. Posts like this. There's no escaping the fact that Ubisoft oversold the product, slashed the budget, did not deliver, and is now sneaking off to make other products. It is actually quite sad seeing people en masse come to the same disillusioned conclusions that I came to in 2017. It's genuinely morose watching it dawn on players that The Division 2 will never be the game they were promised, and the best possible outcome will be Year 2 content, which will undoubtedly be shit too. When you see people on the subreddit talking about Anthem and pre-revival Destiny 2, it pretty much sums up the sorry state of the game. There is also now a huge issue with the number of content creators covering this game. By issue, I mean nearly every last fucker that used to cover this game has moved on. I'm one of the last ones left. Honestly, go to YouTube and search for Division 2. There are only a few names that are recognisable, and all the heavy hitters from the Division 1 have gone. They're covering games like Rainbow Six Siege, Battlefield, Destiny 2, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. The gaming ecology of this franchise is in terminal collapse. It's like one of those biosphere experiments they do in those giant domes in the desert. Only someone cut off the power to the environmental controls, and now it's all just reducing to mould, mildew and rot. And people like me. That sounded so much better in my head. My point is, not only is the ship sinking, but right now I feel like one of the last poor fuckers left standing on the deck, watching the life rafts row away to safety. Oh well, I might be fucked, but at least I'll get to sit back, drink some whiskey, and have a front row seat during this catastrophe. Even if I end up going down with it. I did say, after all, that I would stick with this game until the bitter end. And I can tell you this, the bitter end is not far away. After all of this, it should now come as no surprise that more and more players are just sacking this pile of shit that is the Division 2 and heading back to the Division 1 for Christmas. Well, perhaps permanently. Who would have thunk it? Fuck, the most upvoted comment on the subreddit last time I looked was someone essentially saying, fuck this shit. I'm going back to the Division 1. And can you blame them? I might even give it a shot myself soon. As some of you know, there have been some surveys going out. Strangely, I never seem to be selected for any of these. Well, it appears that they were basically testing people's tolerance to even greater levels of monetization and charging players for new specializations. Unfucking believably, the questionnaire came with a non-disclosure agreement. Really? Consider the implications of this. We are customers. They need information from us, and they make us sign a legal contract making us liable to be sued for helping them. Fucking Christ, someone needs to get these stormtroopers under control. I think they should just stop beating around the bush and say what they really mean, because let's face it, this is what they really want to know. Are there any more ways that we can screw money out of you? Look, these kinds of surveys are pretty clear. They're trying to work out what can draw players out into the hunting lamps. They're trying to work out what microtransactions will still work, and what's the minimum effort they need to commit to keep people online so that they can target them. I'll level with you guys, it was actually hard work making this video, and I'm sure it was even harder work trying to fucking watch it. As I said to someone recently, there's only so many times you can moan about the same damn stuff.
I think you ought to know I'm feeling very depressed.
Oh, God.
The Division 2 is locked in a downward spiral. Everyone is pissed off because there is no new content, and the old content ain't that great. The community managers keep telling us that things will change, and then things don't change. They just invest what little manpower they have in a new set of microtransactions and then promote the loot boxes on State of the Game. Rinse and fucking repeat. After 10 months of this travesty going round and round the carousel, what the fuck is there left to say? The sad conclusion of all of this is that Ubisoft is in a state of financial panic over its bad sales, drop in profits, and crash stock value. Their greedy pursuit of the games as a service business model has failed catastrophically. The Division 2 tanked. Ghost Recon Breakpoint tanked. Their share value tanked. As a result, I think they have decided to pull the plug on this game. The Division 2 has played out just like the Division 1, only in a fraction of the time. They're running down the game already, for fuck's sake. This, however, needs to be kept in perspective. They were always going to underfund, underdeliver and underperform. The entire games as a service model is predicated on overselling, not delivering and bullshitting your way over the finishing line. The difference now, however, is that given the wider crisis of confidence within the corporation, I think Ubisoft has decided to cut their losses, and that the Division 2 is a lost cause and wants to pull the plug now, rather than creak along until the Division 3 promotion window. This is just an issue of timescale. They're just shit-canning the Division 2 after 8 or 9 months rather than 36. Essentially, this scenario was always going to play out this way. It was just going to be stretched over a longer timescale, propped up with loot box sales. There was a time when my views were considered as cynical, toxic, outsider bullshit. These days, my views are mainstream. A lot of veteran Division players agree with some or most of my statements on this franchise. The general consensus seems to be this: they fucked it. They lied. They still insist on selling more loot boxes. My predictions are that the community management team, and by implication State of the Game, will continue the process of slithering away into the shadows. They will continue to block people on social media for asking awkward questions and make up excuses for cancelling State of the Game episodes. We won't hear shit from Massive until they have something to sell us. Then they will load up the bullshit cannon, bombard us with false promises and exaggerations, slap a $50 Year 2 DLC pass on the table, and a few of the remaining gullible or hopeful players will buy it. They will buy it and curse themselves later for being so fucking stupid. The Division 2 has been a spectacular Pyrrhic victory for Ubisoft. At the point where they launched the game, they had everything on lockdown. They exercised total dominion over the subreddit. They had persuaded, cajoled or just paid off vast amounts of content creators. They had a vast advertising budget and a suitcase full of well-rehearsed bullshit. Sadly, however, they didn't have a finished game. Then, probably due to poor sales, they ended up without a fucking budget either for developing the Year 1 content. The total confidence in their own ability to bullshit and bamboozle the customers, combined with a fair bit of mismanagement and a resounding failure to coordinate internally, resulted in this fuck pie of a situation. The Division 2 is an exercise in hubris. They honestly thought that with enough propaganda they could convince everyone the game was brilliant, and it wasn't even finished. And still isn't. They kind of pulled it off at first, but at what cost? The game sold poorly, the reputation of the IP is in the gutter, Ubisoft has issued a profit warning, and the majority of die-hard Division fans, including myself, have largely moved on to other games. Christ, most of the Division content creators have too. They took the money, realised this franchise was a bust, and deserted like rats from a sinking ship. And sinking ship it is. Ubisoft controlled the media, the community, and a lot of the content creators too, but the Division 2 shows just what happens if you get greedy, arrogant, and overconfident. Eventually the bubble will burst. How long did they honestly think they could hide the fact that this game is shit? I mean, people were gonna fucking notice eventually. Gamers aren't stupid. They were going to notice the lies eventually. This said, perhaps if people had been a bit quicker to notice, we wouldn't be here now. So I guess to some degree, we got the game we deserved. It's good night, Irene. But for now, good luck and happy hunting.